I want to start with a story. I had a student, talented, hardworking, genuinely good at what she does. She'd been building her art business for 8 months. She had a list of warm contacts, she had real interest from real collectors, and she hadn't made a single sale. When I asked her why, she said, "I just don't feel ready to ask yet." This is the most common thing I hear from artists. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why it happens and what changes when you stop letting it run your business. Now, this video is based on a fully researched article, and I'll tell you how to get that before it's over. Here is the baseline. You are not failing to sell because your work isn't good enough. You're not failing to sell because nobody's interested. You're failing to sell because you believe that asking is taking. Somewhere along the way, in art school, in your family, in the culture that romanticizes the starving artist, you absorbed a belief that real artists don't sell. That if the work is good enough, people will find it, and that asking for money is crass. And that belief is costing you everything. Now, the plan is not complicated. It's one decision to start asking. Not pitching, not performing, asking clearly, warmly, directly, and letting the other person say yes or no on their own terms. But before you can make that decision and actually stick to it, you need to understand why you haven't been able to make it so far. Because the reason is not weakness. The reason is based in neuroscience. There's a neuroscientist named Naomi Eisenberg who spent years running studies at UCLA on what happens in the brain during social risk. And what she found changed how I think about every conversation I have with artists. When we anticipate social rejection, when we think about asking and imagine someone saying no, the brain activates the anterior cingulate cortex. That's the same region that processes physical pain. Same pathways, same neurological response. So when it feels like you can't ask, when you freeze or pivot away or decide it's not the right moment, you're not being weak. You're experiencing a genuine neurological threat response. Your brain thinks you're in danger. It's actually trying to protect you. Brené Brown's research adds a second layer. In her work on shame and vulnerability, she shows that asking makes you visible. And being visible means you can be evaluated. And being evaluated means you can be found wanting. For artists, this is amplified. Your work is personal, and the ask presents you as a real participant in its value. So the obstacle is not a character flaw. It's your nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do, protect you from a threat that, in this case, will almost never arrive. The problem is that while you're protecting yourself, you're also taking away someone else's chance to say yes. Now, this video is based on a fully researched article that goes deeper into the science and gives you the exact ask scripts to use. Click the link below to read the full article and become a VIP for free. You'll get access to every article in this series as it comes out. Here is what nobody tells artists about sales, and this is the turning point. When you don't ask, you think you're being generous. You think you're protecting the relationship. You think you're being polite. You're not. You're actually making a decision on someone else's behalf. You're deciding they don't want it. You're deciding they can't afford it. You're deciding that they would be bothered. You're deciding for them. The person who keeps coming back to your page, who said something about it, just stays with me. They're not being polite. They're waiting for an invitation. And here's what changes everything. The ask is not the aggressive part. The ask is the responsible part. Withholding the ask is the selfish act. Not because you're a bad person, but because you're protecting yourself at the other person's expense. The collector who walked away from that conversation may have wanted the piece. They may have gone home wishing you had asked. You'll never know because you didn't. The artists in my program who make consistent sales are not more talented and they're not more confident. They just have one practice that separates them. They ask every single week. Not perfectly, not fearlessly. They just do it. The first week feels strange. The second week feels slightly easier. By week 4, it starts to feel automatic. And around that point, the income starts to stabilize or show promise to. Not because the audience grew, because the artists stopped protecting themselves and started closing that loop. So here's what I want you to do right now. Think of one person, a warm contact, someone who's responded positively to your work. Write down their name. Write down the exact line you would say to ask them. Not a plan, just one sentence. Now, before you go, drop a comment below with one way you know you've avoided the ask in your art sales, just one. And be specific, because that moment of naming is the beginning of changing. So also share your one sentence. I would love to see that too. And click the link below to read the full article and become a VIP so you get every article in this series the moment it comes out.